this, and you got that, and you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me. I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friends, which includes, but is not limited to, my dog, Guapito. What's poppin', baby? How you feeling today?
Oh, it went to me. I'm feeling good. I thought I almost missed the scramble, though.
Oh, the scramble.
25 seats guaranteed on the 3rd of July.
I actually saw you, like, really go into panic mode when you thought you missed it.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, that's, you know, a really decent shot at getting into the main for $200. That's
like,
my
the
turn.
panic really set in. I was actually kind of worried for you. I wasn't sure if, like, we needed to call a doctor or something. You just started scrambling. You started looking at your phone, looking online, like, signing in and
The
shit.
scramble is Guapo trying to see if he made reg or not.
That was my anxiety. My anxiety pill was just looking it up and going, okay, sweet, I didn't miss it.
That was his brain scrambling.
Still have a chance.
When is it?
The 3rd of July.
Nice.
Do you like wake up in what the fuck is going on here? Do you ever just like wake up in an anxiety induced
Unfortunately.
panic, like middle of the night? You don't really know what's causing it. You're just, you know, you feel under attack.
Yes.
I've had that, but only if I feel like I'm late for work. Like there's times where, like when I was bartending, where I would wake up and be like, oh my God, I'm late.
Yeah.
Same.
Or I would have those dreams where I'm like filthy rich and I would wake up and just be like super bummed out.
We have the same exact dream.
I have this happen often when I'm like sleep deprived for whatever reason. I'll just go into like full stress mode midnight or like middle of the night, and I'll wake up feeling like the house is under siege, and suddenly I have to defend my area, and I have to tell you, it is not a good feeling at all. Like,
Does it play out the way you want it to? Are you the hero or do you get owned?
No, you wake up.
yeah, like no, I'm just up. I'm not dreaming.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I'm just like up and listening to every single noise and can't fall back asleep for the next hour. My heart's pounding through my chest. It just doesn't feel nice. Speaking of dreams, this is a weird one. I meant to say this on Monday's show, and I forgot. I had a very weird dream Sunday night that I almost don't even want to say this out loud. It's so bad.
Sounds like you should say it out loud,
It's
but
so
go
bad.
on.
I had a weird dream that I was at like Maury's memorial.
Eskandari?
Yeah.
Yep, like you were right the first time.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
very
you were
weird.
right.
It was a big celebration of him, and for whatever reason, he was like 15 years younger. Like very vividly, I remember he was 54 in the dream.
Wow.
And he is definitely, I don't think 54. I mean, not positive, but yeah, very weird. I don't know what in my subconscious was like. Maybe it was a death to poker go somehow in my mind. I'm not really sure.
It was getting deep.
Have you had a lot of interactions with Maury?
Yeah, I love Maury. He's the best. You know what? I know exactly what triggered it. And this is even more weird to say. I was cashing out this weekend, and he must have been playing the Big Bet Mix, or the Big Mix game rather.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like coming out of the box room, and we just very quickly like said hi to one another and went our separate ways. And somehow that worked its way in
into your dreams.
to my subconscious, and he died.
Jesus.
Welcome, Jesse.
Jesse's been here. What do you mean welcome?
Poppin', Jesse.
Yeah, we just forgot to throw it to him.
My dog.
Why did you call me in such a panic?
You know, Berkey, I'm still trying to get through the whole AM versus PM thing. And
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. You know, you don't have to be here. Like, if you sleep in one day, it's okay.
I appreciate that. But I'm a man of my word, and when I say I'm going to be here at 10:30, I'll be here at least 11 o'clock.
Well, God damn it. We appreciate that. Have you... I haven't gotten a chance to watch the coverage. Were you doing some of the PPC commentary?
Yeah, we did day 2.
Okay.
Yes, and you actually did a fucking great job.
Thank you.
I actually
He's
enjoyed
not
this
having
shit
a great
lot.
job with this headset
I'm
right
not
now.
having a great job with my headset.
Jesse versus the headset.
You were with
we go.
Death Donkey, right, Chris Fitch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, it was just me and Ollie, and then they're like, Chris is coming in. I was like, oh, thank God. Well, he's just like, he's so knowledgeable about, especially like, he came in when we did the 10K triple draw, and it's like, man, he just has almost every spot figured out to some extent. Like, he'll be like, no, this is this because of this, this, and this. And it's like, you know, you kind of forget that we spend so much time with No Limit Hold'em, for instance.
That other games exist?
Yeah, or that you can, you know that body of work as well as the No Limit guys do, because we have access to solvers, so it's a little bit different for us. But
Well, I think they also have access to solvers.
yeah, they kind of
Some
allude
games.
to it. Some of those guys allude to it. Some of them.
I think it's like
we have programs.
Well, you know, Mix is like mostly played live, so I think that it's very faux pas to kind of like acknowledge that you study. You know, like the big aspect of the Mix community is that like, hey, we're a bunch of button clickers and we refuse to conform to these goddamn nerds who are out here solving shit and trying to ruin our game.
Like Deuce to 7 single draw is like a solved game.
I don't think it can be solved because it's No Limit.
Wait,
But-
yeah, there's no limit.
Well, I mean,
Anything No Limit isn't going to be quote unquote purely solved. Right?
yeah. Well, you have like an infinite number of bet sizes, right? So you
Yeah.
can't like, but you can get like, I think what you're saying with Deuce to 7 No Limit single draw is that it's like a purely mathematical game. In
Yeah.
the sense that all you have is the information of like your cards
Right.
and what they discard, and so it's like you can
I
find
have
a
like
solution.
a jack versus them drawing 1. Like I stay.
Yeah.
Like I have whatever, they drew 2. Okay, bet. Like stuff like that.
Yeah. The nuance, I guess, would be in calibrating for your sizings. Like when do you breach all in? When do you
Always.
right? If I play Deuce to 7 single draw, it would just literally be, can I be all in or not?
It's like, how much am I 4-betting? Am I staying pat or not? And then am I all in dark?
Right.
Am I all in dark?
Can I jam this hand for value? No. Okay. Bluff then.
Yeah.
Because I'm jamming. I have
Check
one
call.
bet size.
Check call, yeah.
There are a lot of spots where people should probably be trapping, but aren't. Like you both take 1. Let's say they 3-bet pre or something, or they're the razor pre, and you both take 1, and then they check, and they've just always made like, let's say it's like a queen or something like that, or like a king, and so you kind of have, based on how people play like this game, where you can just play like all in no matter how deep you are
Yeah.
to some extent, but
It's
that
like you have
shouldn't
good
really
hand,
exist.
bad hand.
Yeah.
That's simple.
You know, it's funny you say that, Jesse. That's exactly how I've started to play No Limit Cash.
How's that going?
1,000 big blinds effective.
Is it
I've just
working?
decided that if I could just be all in by the end, I don't really need to have that many good hands. I just need to not get called.
Yeah.
You know? And that just seems like a recipe for fun.
Is it working?
It's working-ish.
You're still working it out.
Well, they hit the river sometimes is a real problem.
Sometimes they don't, and they still call.
No, that hasn't happened yet.
They
don't,
will.
when they don't improve, they fold. That part we've gotten consistently there. The issue is the lack of knowledge of knowing whether or not they hit the river. Right? Like I need some sort of facial expression out of them.
Did they improve or not?
Yeah, like
You should have asked them.
right. When that 10 hit on the river versus Okan, I should be like, "Do you have 10s?
Yeah. Did that help you?
Did that help you?"
And he just says
No?
yes, and you're
Okay,
like, okay,
I'm all in.
I check. If he says yes, I check. They
That's
say no, I'm all in.
That's a pretty dangerous game to play, huh? It's like, hey, I'm about to shove for 75,000 into a 50K pot, and my intention is for you to fold jacks, queens, and kings. A, will you do that for me? And B,
I'm asking you once again
and B, do you ever have 10s?
to fold a good hand on the river.
Because if you ever have 10s, that's a real problem for me as well.
This just reminded me of a Scott Seaver hand from yesterday in the 3K, where I think he opens, button calls, he check raises turn on like Jack 3 deuce turn 6, and then button calls, and he just goes on the turn, like he's not even all in yet. He just goes, wow, this is gonna be so sick if you have aces. And then the river's like a deuce, and instantly when he says that, he goes, I'm all in. And the guy's just like, okay, call. And Scott has kings.
Okay.
and Button just has like a set of 3s.
Oh, Christ.
And he's just like, man, it's so sick if you have aces. Like river comes instant, I'm all in. Yeah.
Really,
You got me. You got me.
really unlucky. He
Yeah.
forgot about the threes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, poker is it's
I
fascinating.
love Scott, man. People on the table are like, why would he do that if he said that? I'm like, he's just a speech play guy. This is just what he does.
He's just trying to get called by a jack or whatever.
That's
the
what I
top
said.
pair
I said he
was.
tried to get called by a jack. He probably would have.
He would have. There's a good chance.
Yeah. He
My immediate reaction when you said that speech was, this guy is fucking bluffing. Just absolutely bluffing.
and you had it.
And he had it. He wasn't bluffing. All right. Speaking of not bluffing, we got to give Tortoise his props since he bagged 7.5 big blinds. Notice how I led into that with speaking of not bluffing. Like, if I ever bag 7.5 big blinds, you can be sure as fucking shit.
You bluffed down.
I punted it off right before we bagged.
There's like a threshold,
Right.
right? If you have like 10 bigs or under, it's like you probably bluffed beforehand.
For sure. For sure. Even last year, the 10K mystery bounty, I bagged like
Eight bigs.
8 blinds.
You bagged 8 and you were mad about it, and then you doubled.
Yeah. And the reason why I bagged 8 blinds is because I was firing, thinking we were on the goddamn bubble the night before.
Secret bounty.
Only for them to tell us thereafter, like, we're just kidding. You guys are going to play the bubble tomorrow.
It was like you guys were in the money day 2.
No.
You guys, the bounties came into play day 2.
Correct.
That's what it was.
The initial structure was bounties begin on day 2, and day 1 is 10 levels. Then, somewhere around level 9, they said, we're going to play till the money. And I said,
Where is this?
The
This was last year.
10K secret bounty last year
Wow.
The secret was the prize
at the
pool.
World Series. Yeah, the
And
secret
the bounty.
was the secret was, when will we unlock bounties?
Yeah.
You'll never know.
Neither will they.
So then somewhere around level 9, they're like, actually, we're just gonna play to the money. And there was like 18% of the field left at that point, and I had a stack. I had like 50 or 60 bigs. I was like, okay, giddy up, let's fucking do this. And then as I dwindled my stack down to fucking crumbs, they got back on the mic and they go, just kidding. Just kidding.
It was a joke structure.
We're going to end at the end of level 10. And at this point, there's like 20 minutes left in level 10. So they're about to pause the clock. They're like, just kidding. We're going to end the night after 10 levels. And we're going to begin tomorrow with the bounties being in play. And I said, well, fuck me. I have 11 big blinds now. And I was just all in because I didn't want to bag 11 big blinds in a goddamn mystery bounty where the bounties aren't in play yet. But now suddenly you do want to bag really badly because
Your incentive changed.
yeah, because you're playing for bounties the next day. So fortunately everything worked itself out. I ended up tripling up the first intuition, baby. I had never played mystery bounty before. You know what I did as soon as I got there the next day, Jesse? Started fucking limping. You wanna know why? Because limping's fucking pimping in these goddamn things.
Limping is pimping.
is.
Nice.
It only works in mystery bounties, but it's really good. It's really good. I got somebody good. I tripled up like the first hand, and now I had like 28 blinds or something like that. And then I got either 8s or 10s, I can't recall, in like the hijack. And I think I was covered by everybody behind me. So I was like, well, I don't really want to get 3-bet jammed on here, so I'm just gonna limp. And then somebody ISO'd me, who was then covered by the big blind, who then rejammed, and I was like, nah, fuck these guys, I'm all in. And then he called it off, and it was ace deuce and king 10. We just, baby, give it all to me. Give it all to me.
Let me get some bounties.
Yeah, I ended up getting 5 min bounties.
Why didn't you want to get 3-bet?
I could just be misremembering the situation. I'm very
sounds accurate.
I might have had them covered. I don't know. Anyway, the whole point was that might have been what it was. There might have been like one shorty in between because I think I got a bounty that hand. So I think it went like I limped, guy jammed for like 7,
From like the small blind or something.
like cut off or button or something like that. And
That's
then,
nice then.
And then the big blind like rejammed for infinite.
We had ISO.
And I just beat him in. Give me the goddamn pot.
You took it.
Won the flip. Never win those.
And then you
I died. I died like 12th. or 14th
ignobly.
maybe. Yeah. Very nobly.
Ignobly.
So Tortoise bagged 7.5 blinds. Of those 7.5, 2 of them were Alan Kessler's.
Don't fuck with the tortoise, Kessler.
is
Crossbook,
this in the
Tortoise versus
600?
Kessler.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I don't
Let's
know
go.
how one bagged 7.5 big blinds in a tournament labeled the deep stack.
Yeah, I was gonna say I looked at that tournament and it said 4 days, and I just
Yeah.
stopped looking at the tournament. I was like, I think
We're
I'll
not
spend
built for
4
this.
days in a tournament. Yeah, I'm not built for
It
this.
started 10-handed, right?
Yeah.
And now it's just going to be hour levels is how it's going to go?
It is.
Yeah, you just didn't want to get in there, huh?
I played the Win 3500 instead.
How many times?
Twice.
This is a real thing, though. That
What would
structure
you do,
is
Jesse?
too good for a $600
Jesse,
tournament.
Jesse, what would you do if you were me? 600, 10-handed, deep stack versus the Win 3500 multi-flight.
Which you could play again today.
I mean, I'm in the 3500.
Thank
But
you.
like,
With his crossbook?
well, it's just a straight up crossbook.
Yeah.
You don't have to put the graffic up.
Come on now.
And we're losing
We
by
need some
60K.
motivation here.
I mean, maybe the right answer is like you have 120% ROI in the 600 and you only have like
You-
a 50%
do
in
you?
the 3500. So like
Of course
you should
you
play
do.
the 600. But like,
120%.
Very likely, yes.
I don't know. I'm all for gambling it up. Also,
I just think you play the next one up, especially when it's a high ROI event like that.
I don't want to get too into this sort of thing, but I'm gonna prioritize playing at the Win
Yeah.
pretty heavily personally for like.
Yeah, but not if you have a crossbook where you're getting mopped for fucking 70K.
I'm thinking of my own
Mopped?
life. Even.
Yeah, we're getting mopped.
true.
What do you
It's
mean mopped.
It's
It's
we're
mopped.
getting
Wait,
mopped.
what happened? What did Jeremy have a score?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, we're down. I see.
We're
One
down.
says no, one says yeah.
Hey,
the fucking scoreboard says yes.
It's not even 70. It's 60.
Okay, my math is a little off.
It's
but,
not even mopped. What do you mean? It's 6 buy-ins and a 10K.
Well, you're not going to play 610K, so we're getting mopped.
could.
And
You could.
and
Depends how hard you try.
so here's the other annoying thing.
Look at this guy. This guy is ready for the main event.
I know he is.
I'm ready for any event. I just wanted to play poker.
You want to know what he's ready for, Jesse?
Fine.
Jesse, you want to know what he's ready for? He's ready to 6-bet jam Ace 5 suited on day one of the main event. Be shown the goddamn door,
No.
and then have to anti-sweat Becker for 5 days as he runs deep.
Nah, we're over that. We're over that phase. Nah, we did that enough.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean,
But I'm ready. I'll do it.
like, I think that I even said on air yesterday that if you busted the 3K, you would obviously hop in the 600 because it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Everyone
but
else
apparently.
that's smart thinks otherwise. They think it's the Win for sure.
I'm just not following why. First place hits the cap in the 600. You get a 100K bonus if you win the bracelet. It's a really high ROI event. And sure, your hourly is low, but none of us who are betting on you give a flying fuck about your hourly. Like, we need you to run deep in shit and make scores. And the thing is that...
First does cap out the bet, but barely. First is 283.
Yeah, okay, fine.
So you need to win the tournament.
Yes.
But-
yes.
Well, technically,
But-
if you need scores in the short term, the 3500 has smaller fields. So
It's well, he's still, but the thing is, he still gets to play the 3500
No,
if he busts.
Right, but then again, like, if I don't, then I skip out on the 3500.
Sure, and then you go play 5 fucking win 1Ks. I don't know.
You go play the turbo.
I don't know.
It's turbo time.
It's turbo
It
time.
is
baby.
turbo time, baby.
I might fire the turbo, to be honest.
The
That sounds
1K?
like fun.
Yeah, they're
Wait, where's the
1K turbo.
1K?
Well, they're 1K turbos.
They do them every day.
Nightlies.
Except for right now because of the
that
3500.
turbo.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the 600.
No, I don't know. I think
Becker's
it's
been making his bread and butter.
I think it's the 3500, man. Like in this tournament, I could play for 3 days and just get like 14K if you're lucky.
Well, I'll take 14K.
Right, but then I would miss the 3500,
Yeah, but like,
and that's sad.
I think what you're saying is relevant if we're on like the last week of the World Series and now you have to kind of cherry pick swinging for the fence. But like, it's just one 3500 that your ROI is like probably 10, 15, 20% as high as the 600. You're making more dollars every time you register the 3500 in theory, but
I think that's the argument. It's
Wait, I
like
think-
that makes more dollars.
Don't you just want to maximize his hourly? Because it's just a straight crossbook. So it's as if you were, like, if you were crossbooking cash, you would just want him to play the cash game at the highest hourly. And since, like, we can't, you could play tournaments that have smaller fields to alleviate variance a little bit, but, like, mostly because there's an endpoint, but, like, mostly you just want him to play the tournament that he's the most profitable in, right?
well, I think
I'm not saying
I think it's an
600
ROI.
isn't that
I think because
tournament.
it's an ROI bet, you just want wherever he has the highest ROI in.
Oh, it's not dollars one bet. It's ROI.
Correct. So it's net.
It's just like if I lose 3500, I go minus 3500. Versus if you're just doing cashes, you wipe it.
Right.
That way he can't just like fire a billion, or I can't fire a billion in the 3500 with like reckless abandon, try to like run up a stack or whatever.
Okay.
So you get charged for it.
Okay. So you're not doing a straight dollar crossbook then.
It is. Well, he's playing the Bank of Time X for us, and we're doing the same for him, right? So, if he plays a 10K and misses, we make 10,000. If he cashes, he makes.
Like I played the
cashes.
10K Super Turbo Freeze Out bounty thing, and I lost with no bounties.
Mm-hmm.
I lost 10K.
Yeah, we got
on the
fucked.
bet.
Yeah.
So by default, I have to pay him 10K.
Okay.
I played the 20K Super Turbo Freeze Out bounty.
That's why like playing low ROI stuff is dangerous because you don't get to put in much volume.
But
So
is it low ROI and a good structured win 3,500 where yesterday got 550 entries and today there's going to be more?
Just low by comparison. I think Jesse's estimate of like having 100+% and a 600 where all the good players are at the win isn't that far off.
It's interesting because generally I think the win tournaments on average are a little softer maybe even than the World Series stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I've just noticed like the average person who shows up for 3 tournaments and goes to the World Series, you have to pry those chips out of their cold dead hands. You know?
They're tight for sure.
Yeah. Whereas like
You're not
people,
wrong.
yeah, people are showing up to the win. They're having a great weekend. This is just a vibe I've got, and it's very.
It's because EBC's going on in the background.
The win passes the vibe
it's
check.
It's 5 p.m. and like some fucking bombshells just come walking by with Francis Anderson
yeah,
holding a bottle of Dom.
and you got some like
Ready.
billionaire at your table.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
and
like,
he's
I'm
just
gonna torch it and go talk to
right.
this girl.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
literally going on.
Yeah,
Very true.
I mean,
very true.
Yeah, like I open button I open button with 8s. Brazil just like puts in 20 bigs from the big blind. I'm like, that's pretty good. Just 6-5 suited.
Okay.
Blank, 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 6-5. And I'm just like, okay.
Like,
Vamos Brazil.
Vamos.
Vamos Brazil. Like the win's a beautiful place, man. I want to go to the win. I want to go to the win.
Did he have a patch on?
No.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, according to Pads' tweet, enough said.
Yeah. Where's our patch?
What do you mean? Where's our patch? The great question. Where's our patch, Landon?
I'm saying it's not in the thing.
That's because you're not wearing it.
Barry's
I think you just called yourself out.
It's so good.
It's
Fucking
true.
self-reporter.
By the way, the point of that was I generally think the win tournaments are softer, but I've heard this 3,500 is not particularly good.
I would be surprised if it's.
I don't
soft.
know. It's how bad can it be when there's 550 entrants on 1B? And
Well,
then
for you,
today's
not
is
bad at all. You're good at the game.
550.
You
Like
know?
today, there's probably gonna be like 600, 700. How many good people? How many good poker players are there?
Probably 600, and they're all in there 4 times.
Right. They just keep rebuying.
Yeah. Vamos Brazil. So I need patch reads from you guys. Do you guys agree with Pads on some of these?
Are we going down the list?
Yeah, I think we need to because I haven't played a lot of tournament volume, but I definitely I agree with some. I might disagree with others. I'm not sure.
Do we have to pick
I love
Do we have
these.
to pick like the ringleader for each patch? Because like Winamax is obviously Mateos.
Oh,
You know?
Mateos win him? I always think of
I would-
Yes.
I always think of lasagna,
yeah,
which is similar. They're both extremely
Mustafa?
aggro,
Yeah.
smart. Yeah.
yeah.
They could be like co-ringleaders. Aggro, when the money goes in, they have it. Sometimes.
Okay, I can see that. I don't think the read with the Japanese with the video crew is correct.
That's fucking valid as hell.
I don't think so.
Nah, me neither.
Outside of Shota, the Japanese crew is quite tight.
That's
Nah,
what I
Yeah,
thought.
I've had some pretty big nits with the King.
Masato is a fucking Masato's a nut peddler. I'm here to tell you guys. Masato-san, nut. Just always the
I don't
nuts.
know. I've seen some vloggers and like they just like 3-bet the Jack 10 suited and go to town. But sometimes they when the money goes in, they might have it too. It might be a fake read.
I
Fake
think.
read.
Yeah,
Not sure.
yeah.
We'll need some more info.
I'm unsure the GG patch because I'm unsure if it's Club GG that they're wearing or if it's GG Poker.
I think he means just the GG.
Club GG, they got way too rich by literally raking people over the coals, so never fold. Which actually I guess is pretty spot on with Pads' read. They don't fold pre.
Honestly,
Too rich from raking.
the person I see is Ren Lin.
Ah,
The
Ren-
live pro
okay.
with the GG pats on. Like,
Okay,
Touchdown, Tom Brady.
Tom Brady never fold pre-flop.
Okay, I didn't know that Ren was out there rocking GG. That
Yeah,
makes
Ren's like
sense.
he's like the head of GG China. He's like the goat. of
He is the
GG.
goat.
I'm a little miffed by the Jaka. I've only seen Robbie J. Lou wear Jaka.
What about Fausto?
Fausto, I don't even know if he wears the patch, but he's his
around.
own coach.
He's around.
But the actual patches are more the students.
Yeah.
And it's solid side. I'm not so sure.
They've taken over. The Jaka coaching patches have taken over, though.
They're rammers and jammers, as far as I'm concerned.
Bro, I haven't played with a Jaka patch in a while, but they used to take the most insane lines every single hand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
If you ever stuck any line into a solver, the computer would just explode.
Right.
Like, it was nuts.
Like nobody is reminiscing on the toilet O and thinking like, solid side.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just
For us, really ABC.
real ABC guy, just gonna hit you with the traditional bet check bet line.
I like
you know?
the second part of the read though. Stares you down when they want you to fold. They
thought,
lock in.
See, I would have thought that was much more a chip leader coaching type of tool with the Fox and stare down, the chance stare
He went
down.
the other route because for the patch wearers, Rich don't
Right.
fold.
Yeah, that's
Valid.
reasonable. That is valid.
Poker code. Oh, out of line 4-bet any 2 versus.
Some of these are really good. The Phenom one was a polarizing one. They either
is, dude,
super
like-
speculative or super solid. That's true.
It is.
Like-
Because there's some people I don't know at all who have them, and then there's like Sergio who won the 50K.
What is Sergio's deal? He's just becoming a NASCAR car? Like, he's just like, yeah, whatever. You got a fucking patch? Throw it on me. I don't care. Phenom Poker, Bally's Live. I don't give a fuck. Put a patch on me.
Sergio's with Bally Live?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what are Bally Live pros? I mean, it's the most...
Patrick missed that one on there.
Well, he put question marks. He's unsure.
Bally Live?
It's like the greatest assembly of misfits I've ever seen in my life. It ranges from like Brian Green all the way up to Sergio.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? If you've played on Bally, you get a patch?
Has Sergio even played on Bally?
Yeah, he plays there's like a tough 25-50 game that they run on the weekend. It's just all pros.
Yeah, but like when is Sergio in the US like playing that?
The month leading up to the series.
Like-
He probably played it like 5 or 6 times, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the game is like incredibly tough. Well, actually, I don't know how tough it is, to be honest, but like it plays rather tight, rather
Comparatively
solid.
speaking.
Comparatively speaking to a TV game, it's pretty tough.
Comparatively speaking.
All things considered.
We played Bally's Live in one of probably the worst lineups you'll ever see.
You and I?
Yeah, it was me,
you,
Foxen.
Fox, Chewy, Saliba, and Matekas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a really good lineup.
And LaPlante.
Yeah. I love that you say LaPlante.
Ryan the Plant. It's over there. He's in studio over there.
I love that you make him Spanish every time.
He's right behind Conrad.
Way to cut the Condi there, Glove. That was fucking remarkable.
I don't have him in my preview screen, man. What do you want from me?
It was so good. Speaking of Matekas, he put a tweet out the other day
Oh, yeah.
that I've been meaning to talk about.
He's got beef.
Honestly, I'm on his side of this one. I don't know Matt Bode, but like, when did we get to the point of like shaming one another on our pre-flop decisions? Like, LOL, last year's player of the year just open jam King Jack for 11. What?
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, literally.
I mean, the tweet was a real thing.
Jeez, dude.
Just watch 2023 Player of the Year rip King Jack for 11 blinds from hijack on the stone bubble of an 11,000 person field. LOL. I guess I can win I guess anyone can win it. Just have to be lucky.
It's funny because you know it's King Jack suited because he doesn't write off because he doesn't want to lie about it, kind
Right.
of.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's like,
Well, Ian had to clarify.
I'm well aware.
It's the lying through omission.
Yeah.
Right? So Ian says it was
Round
10.5
up.
blinds, which I actually find that to be funny
Yeah.
too.
It's not
Like,
11, it's 10.5.
You know,
Buddy.
there's a threshold here, and 10.5 is exactly it.
It is.
Yo,
Well,
anytime
it's
somebody
all-
says something like that, all I think of is Jeremy Piven in Old School. I got out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Yeah.
The problem with that is he had to because he fucked up with the King Jack. He didn't write King Jack suited. If you wrote King Jack suited, you can like just not write any of that
Yeah.
part.
And
You
it was
know?
suited.
But now he's like, fuck you. This is what's really happened.
And he goes on to say, you have zero self-awareness. You're talking about HRC sims on a Millie Maker table full of people who play 2 tournaments a year, yapping during 2 big river decisions and calling
Yapping.
clock way too fast on a guy who played fast all day long.
I'm on Ian's side.
Yeah, again, like I know Ian briefly. I've played with him once or twice. His table presence is fine. He plays very solid, and I couldn't care less if he's making mistakes. Matter of fact, I hope to God he fucking is. And actually, like, we did it in the muck where he might have been a little bit too wide bluffing me in a spot, but it worked. And who fucking cares? Like, when did we get to this point of criticism where it's like, well, I've looked at a chart and that just absolutely does not align with what the chart like. Shut up.
Shut up.
Well, I mean, like it's like kind of the classic thing where people that do that stuff need to kind of feel validated in themselves.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh, tell me more, Landon.
Well, I mean, I don't do this shit.
Not publicly.
No, but like I know my place where I can and can't do this shit.
Yeah, it's just, you know
your place.
It's
Mine
a lot.
is in the group chat. That's fine.
Oh man,
mine is in the group chat. with my friends.
I always know when Landon's doing homework because I just get sent like 87 screenshots of final tables at Poker Go where like I truly have no idea what's going on. Like I couldn't be. It'd be the equivalent of you putting me in the booth for Raz fucking Dazzle Triple Draw Omaha Archie. Like I don't know the rules to this game and I don't know why this is a mistake of what you're sending me right now, but you seem really upset about it.
It is upsetting. It is well, it's not upsetting in the way like it's upsetting, like sad, more like, man, like I want to play. I want to be in there.
Yeah. Well,
What, Raz?
No.
Come on in, buddy.
No.
Come on in, buddy.
No,
I
final
heard
table.
Razzle Dazzle. And
No, just
final
like
tables.
just some of these like final table spots, but then again, like poker's hard and it's hard to get every spot right, you know?
I was just talking about this the other day.
Especially in game 2, like you don't see stacks. Like
yeah.
it's so much easier when like
Yeah.
you kind of like are in like the HQ, like looking at things, like have the answers. It's not great in the sense of like mildly trying to give like some sort of grace to an extent where it's like, oh, he might have thought someone had 20 bigs, but they actually had 15 or they actually had 18, and it's like that weird in between. But yeah, it's hard to get things right, like bet sizes too, like counting pot is most of my brain goes to counting the pot in
Sure.
playing live.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you do it.
I convert to big blinds. Go ahead, Jesse.
That's what I did. I've recently got there. Helpful.
I don't know what I was going to say before, but man, that tweet is like just so bad. Like it kind of represents like the worst part of the poker world.
Yeah.
It's like people like, first of all, you don't say this sort of thing in public. You say it to your friends quietly.
That's what I said.
Which to Landon's credit, that's exactly what he does.
To be
I'm-
fair,
I'm
when you
kidding.
have
That's
the group
ridiculous
chat-
either way, obviously. But I mean, it's just like zoom out. We're playing a game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we're out here like playing a game and having fun, and like you've just turned it into like
Not fun.
because I'm running bad. Like everyone else has to feel terrible.
So I kind of spoke about this with Katie on Monday when we were talking about like some of the criticisms that women face and some of the barriers. And one of the focuses was like when you're new and a woman on top of it, every decision you make is under a microscope, right? And you're just going to get criticized in ways that aren't fair. And the irony is that a lot of people who will dole out the criticisms are just at a point of their learning that's like one step ahead of you, right? Where it's like,
Yep.
they can point to something that they know and they feel confidently about it, so they have to tell the world. But the only reason they feel the need to tell the world is because like it just recently became something that they've become digestible to them. So now they're in that Dunning-Krueger effect where they're the authority.
Mm-hmm.
And when I read something like this, I know that I've gone through these phases myself. Hopefully I didn't do it publicly. But what my takeaway from this is, as somebody who has been playing poker professionally for 21 years now, and at one point in time was at least competent at tournament play, and now am very well aware that I am not winning in most fields, this makes me never want to play a fucking tournament. Because this illuminates like my biggest fear as a public personality within this space, that I'm going to go make a critical error in front of somebody who will judge me for it.
Yeah. And by the way, that's crazy that you feel that way, because this isn't most tournament players or most tournaments. Like, look, like I just commentated the 50K, and Blesnik's literally having the time of his life at the feature table. How many checks in the dark, and Blesnik's like, dealer, I'm going to check behind in the dark. Like, this has never been done before. We're on unprecedented territory. And it's like,
I'm gonna counter your dart
side,
check with a check myself.
Yeah. That's his way of battling.
Yeah, that was his shtick.
Yeah,
I
like,
mean, it's also my fault. I'm sorry. I did this to you.
A little bit. You definitely did. But
I did this in the group chat.
But not
this in the group chat.
Not the way that you think you did.
You
just
ruined your poker dreams.
not the way that you think you did, though. You've made me aware of where the skill edge lies in MTTs, and it's different than where I thought it lied 5 years ago.
Like you thought it was more like playing for chips better.
Yeah, for sure.
And
like I thought ICM mattered, but never to the degree at which it actually does.
Yeah. Well, it depends on who you ask. You know, Becker's just trying to win.
Well, moreover, you just made me hyper aware that the majority of people who play tournaments seriously actually are considering ICM, which means therefore it does matter. Where like 5 years ago, maybe most people weren't considering ICM through all stages of the field, and now me playing for chips wasn't that much of a detriment.
Yeah, I think in partly that's due to like tech advancing and solves, like seeing people like look at ICM, call it ICM 50 and then ICM 25, and then like right after you burst the bubble, and then like bubble play, burst bubble, final two tables, whatever. Because like there's chips matter. Especially this year at the series, like min caching is so important. Like ICM really big, you make the money, and then it goes all the way down. Like in the Millie Maker, as soon as you cash the Millie Maker and there's 1,500 people left or whatever, you're just back to playing for chips because there's no significant pay jump for the next foreseeable future.
Right. And the irony is that like way before we had this technology, like the early days of the Academy, 2016, 2017, I was very much one of the early people who was professing like ICM is from the start.
Which is ironic
for sure,
as hell.
Right. And for sure there's ICM pressure like once Reg closes. Like I intuitively knew that, but I had never understood how to run tools or measure that or model that in any sort of capacity. And I still don't have a deep understanding for it. But getting all the way back to this tweet, I realized like entering the World Series, how much that weighs on my decision to play an event or not, because I haven't positioned myself, I don't think anyway, or maybe a better way of reframing it is it's just not a good look to be a professional who takes pride in what he does and go whale it up and be the wreck in another format, right? Like it'd be okay if it's a totally different format. Like if I go whale it up and deuce to 7, no one's going to judge me for it, right? But I should be competent at MTTs because I play professionally for a living. I teach, I do all these things, and that should be an avenue that I'm pretty well versed in. But I'm just not. Like I'm very much a deep stack cache specialist, and the older I get, the more I lean even heavier into that arena and could care less about this, because for me, MTTs were always like, in the early part of your career, it was a bankroll builder. It was a shot at like, you know, some glory and some big money to leverage elsewhere. And then later in your career, it just became a way to fill the hours, right? It's like, well, I'm not getting enough seats, so like this is a nice way for me to go fill a couple 100 hours a year. I should have an ROI there. Like whatever we get is great, and you know, more importantly, like
we get what we get.
Yeah, but also like there's other ancillary benefits, like you can bolster your profile. You can, it's good for the company. There's a lot of good things that come from like winning in the MTT sphere. But now, like when I busted the 10K bounty, I had Brock at my table and Noel at my table. And I remember as I was 4-bet jamming the ace-10 suited, I was like, if I get called here, I have to make it abundantly clear to everybody that I was gambling because I'm fucking embarrassed.
Because they're going to put this in the group chats.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to be like, Berkey's a retard. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just out here jamming ace-10 suited for 4 bets in a spot where like he has no fold equity versus under the gun 7. Yeah. Like, how can he be so dumb? And it's like, well, I have a really juicy game to go to. Yeah. And I don't want to fold this hand.
Which you didn't. No,
I did. No, you did. I lost $250,000 that day. I should have stayed in the tournament.
No, it's funny if you're like, oh, I got a big game to get to, and you just don't have a big game to get to.
Sorry, boys.
I got other things to do.
Got a big game to go get to, and it turns out that I'm just going home to walk the dogs.
You're just gonna go sleep. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like there's this, and honestly, you would think it would get me to play better, but it just doesn't. Like my brain so contrarian, I just immediately go to, well, I'll show them. I'm gonna play extra bad.
But you have more pressure to play good, but you play worse.
But like, you know, they're consummate professionals. They didn't put a fucking tweet out that said, "Oh man, Berkey has Reg closed with 30% of the field left."
Hashtag
just
solve for
getting
broke.
it in. Right, exactly.
Also, like, what does the rest of his timeline look like if that's the hand that he's picking apart?
That was the other thing. It's like I look at that and I'm just like, how bad could it be?
It's just not. I mean, if it's suited, it's probably okay-ish, but
yeah, it's like I trusted it wasn't offsuit,
Yeah.
right? Because like if it's offsuit, then it's like, yeah, okay, this is like probably pretty
I mean,
bad.
it's also
but
just like good anyways, probably, just because like you don't get called very often, and like picking up the blinds is important, and you don't want to raise fold.
Right.
Like you're winning some sort of amount. Like you can make the argument that like in practice you're winning so much because people are going to torch it themselves that you don't have to take the spot, where like you're more incentivized to cash and then lose. But at the same time, it just depends on like how you see the game. Because like, if you're looking at it from like a stone theory perspective, like King Jack's just going to jam all day. You'd probably jam up to like 13, 14, 15 from cutoff. Like you just don't get called.
Now imagine if you have somebody that's folding ace 10 off in the big blind there.
You have a lot of people doing that because they want to cash, you know?
That's
like,
what I'm saying. Like, who cares?
It's just a matter of like, do you think that there's like more of a practical sense to that element or not? Like, how much does that matter to you? And there's no like actual answer, you know? There's just like thought of answers.
I just think that this is. I don't think this is really an indictment against Matt. Like, I just think this is reflective of the natural phases that one goes through in their learning and transitioning into becoming a full-time pro, and more importantly, like a big winner in your space. Like, it's just hard to see the forest through the trees every single step along the way. And it just seems like I'm looking through his timeline, he's talking about like doing a lot more coaching and a lot more preparing and stuff like that. And it sounds like in 2020, when he won his bracelet, he feels like maybe he got a little lucky because he didn't know then what he knows now. So it is like this constant ebb and flow of Dunning-Krueger followed by imposter syndrome. Like, at least that's been my journey.
There's like
right?
the spectrum of where you're at.
It's just like every 18 months, you're either full-blown Dunning-Krueger effect where you're the greatest to ever do it, or you're full-blown imposter syndrome where like you're not going to sit down at the felt until you put in another 1,000 hours grinding sims and figuring out what the fuck is going on around you.
Like, I chose B25 instead of B40. Like, lock me away.
We just had this joke the other day about old washed up Jesse, like in 2030 or whatever, sitting down at a poker tournament, and like immediately people are like, oh, he chose 18% instead of 15%. That's washed.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, we're not that far if there's tweets like that going out.
Yeah. I actually think there's probably a subsection of the community that does view the environment that way. And I think like again, I'm always just like kind of projecting my own experience, but the first summer that I wasn't excited to play the World Series anymore was the summer before COVID, so I guess like 2019-ish, and it's because like that was when solvers were like just peak, and that was like the last summer where I was resistant to it. Like, I still wasn't running my own stuff, and like I was listening, and I think that was right around when Landon first came here, and
2018, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, like I'm more open to the idea, but like I'm not gonna spend all my time on this kind of thing. Right. And I just remember showing up, and it just felt like everyone was a Euro and everybody had been using a solver for 2 years, and suddenly I just like felt under the microscope, where it's like, oh my god, every decision I make is wrong. They all know the fucking answers and they're joking about it around me. Yeah. Like, oh, he picked B67, what a fucking clown.
Which is ironic because like call it not back then, but things were just solved based on how you solved them, you know, because your answer could be 67, someone else's could be 55.
The funny part is
and you could both be right.
Right. And I remember a very specific hand from that summer where I just didn't want to play tournaments any longer. And I trapped aces versus a 4-bet, which turns out was just good.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was still flying by intuition at that point.
This seems nice.
Right. But so I end up trapping aces versus a 4-bet. And I go broke versus 8s that flop a set. And I just remember thinking to myself, because it ended up being like a triple off, where I'm just like bluff catching down with aces.
Someone 4-bet 8s?
Yeah, I don't remember what the dynamic was or the
find out who that guy is.
By the way, if you ever get 4-bet and you trap aces and they have 7s or 8s, you're
right.
Dead. You never win that spot.
Right. You never win, and like you probably did something right.
You'll never
right?
see the 8
like,
coming.
Yeah. Well, but more importantly, like if they have those hands, like you're really fucking them because they're probably just like too
so
wide.
So have like ace jack off, king,
queen. Exactly.
Mm.
But I remember I basically just like bluff caught down and ended up being like a 200 big blind pot, and obviously I'm just showing a better hand. And I just remember like this feeling of disgust on the end where it was like, I don't even know if I was supposed to bluff catch down on the river or not at the time. Like obviously in hindsight, hand was played very well. But
You
at the
did
time,
great.
it just puts it filled me so much with doubt and made me feel like they had unlocked some sort of cheat code to the game that I just didn't have the knowledge or the oversight on. And I was just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like,
It broke you.
Where's the fucking cash game? Because I know exactly what to do with aces facing a 4-bet in that arena, and I'm just gonna go play that instead.
Yeah.
Can I say like something that's sort of the silver lining to all this?
Sure. Actually, no. Shut up. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I do feel like you are the type of player who does take more non-standard lines in terms of sizing and stuff like that. And sometimes this is inadvertent, and definitely a nice chunk of the time it's very on purpose. But you do take different sizes, take different lines than maybe is like recommended by the solver. And I think that the marginal loss in EV in doing so is often easily negated by the fact that you take people who have only studied these lines like way out of their element, and they just can't play this node very well. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And that's like part of why poker is such a beautiful game, because like the easiest way to say this is just many styles can win.
Sure.
But like the more in-depth thing is these guys have gotten really good at one style of poker. And as soon as you take them down a road that they're not used to, and you are used to, there's a lot of value in that. I know like certain people, like you've done that a lot in the past. Vanessa used to do that. This is before solvers, but Vanessa used to check back like an enormous percentage instead of c-betting.
Yeah.
And just people would go batshit against it. And
Right.
Sauce used to do it in heads up against people. Which, by the way, you, Vanessa, Sauce are all very different poker players, right?
Yeah.
And very different approaches to poker, at least, when they did it in 2015 or whatever. But it just gives me like hope that this game is there's still like a lot of life to it.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's small anecdotal evidence, but it was the same thing for me the other day playing online, where the person who was in my small blind was always raising to 5 instead of 3, and it was the same thing for me. I was like, well, how do I adjust? How do I adjust my 3-bet size, or what should I be 3-betting? But yeah,
it's like, and you can go off and study that and probably be better at them in the future. But there's a million different ways that you can kind of in real time put somebody in a bad spot where they don't really know how to respond to it.
And you're not prepared for it now.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can learn that, or take some time to do that. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Like Dom is just kind of was known for the limp or 3.5x strategy. Who knows how good or bad it works in the sense of like EV gain, where like results of a tournament aren't going to matter much. Like if you didn't win, if you won or lost, like is what it is. But like there's just so many different times where you can have all the answers in your head and you can still be an idiot. You can have no answers. You can also be an idiot. And there's no real way to say like, okay, this is correct. I know this is right, and wins the most. Like, we're all just guessing.
It's so easy to play pretty poorly versus 3.5 in limp. And then for Dom, who's like studied it really hard, he's like, okay, I'm losing this marginal amount by running this strat. But like, it doesn't matter because people are just going to lose so much more than me just playing really poorly.
Or you're like
even really, really good players and high rollers.
Yeah, it's tough. Like it's nice to have the knowledge to know what the answers are, but then there's a different practical element of like knowing if it's correct or not.
Yeah, I think that you use some language there that is really interesting to me, because I think that full circle it plays again, basically. But the notion that people have different stylistic approaches was one that went by the wayside whenever we started to learn theory, because math doesn't come with a style, right? Like math is
numbers
thought to be very rigid.
Number style.
Right, but the truth of the matter is, and we discussed this at length last week, if you guys listening want to go back and listen to the one about like quote unquote debunking GTO, but the notion that math is so rigid is predicated on the fact that you're dealing with a consistent environment or a non-variable environment. And the truth is, this game is highly variable and inputs matter a ton. So when you start to speak to stylistic approaches, it's not just about manipulating the mechanics and choosing maybe like non-traditional line work or non-traditional sizing schemes. It's also just about like how ranges are innately constructed. So truthfully, we're all adapting in real time and employing strategies that will never show up in a sim because we have to iterate on the pre-flop adjustments first and foremost. If I have any knowledge whatsoever that my opponent is 3-betting 5 pips too wide, 1 pip too wide, whatever the case may be, the natural response is going to be very different than what the prefixed ranges would look like in theory, right? In theory land, it would say, don't adjust unless you have absolute knowledge over what pips he's choosing, because then you can just max exploit those. But in theory land, they would just say, you're already protected. You have a theoretically sound range. It's like, okay, yes, that's true, assuming that he's the only defector. But what if everybody is doing different versions of too wide, too loose? Because that's actually what's happening in practice, right? So when I open under the gun and I open a theoretical under the gun range, it's predicated on the 8 spots behind me playing their ranges appropriately in theory as well. Well, what if all 8 of them are making errors? I'm opening a fucking cutoff range now. And that's just the way that I view poker. And now if I'm opening a cutoff range and each of them is adjusting to the fact that I'm opening a cutoff range from under the gun, the whole fucking thing is broken. So stylistically, I like that word, because what it is now is we're attributing the style to how we're actually constructing our initial inputs.
That's nice, actually, because when you look at like someone like me that's very not like by the book as a whole, but knows the book relatively well, like you would know, okay, like certain hand for X amount of big blinds versus this position in this range does this action, you know? Where if I look at someone like you opening from under the gun 8, it's not the same as someone that plays too tight and opens from the hijack, you know? So like a spot for me with like 30 bigs.
And it's also very dependent.
Yeah.
Right? Because now when somebody chooses to flat call me or to 3-bet me or to whatever the case, now you have to make a guess as to whether or not they're privy to the fact that I'm not opening a standard range. So have they adjusted to the fact that I'm not opening a standard range, or are they just rigid in their own line work where it's like, well, I'm just going to play my range and let other people figure it out?
Or are they being too tight where they're like, I know that Matt's knows he has a cutoff range and he's not going to fold very much, so I'm just going to play tighter and my value is going to outperform, but I'm not going to bluff as much in a certain spot. So like it's more so having the knowledge of knowing what it looks like by the book and then trying to use your brain to figure out, does this make sense to follow the book or not? Like I absolutely toasted it yesterday in a spot where someone opened under the gun 7 and I had 30 bigs with 8s in the big blind, and I'm like, man, this feels like for chips it's fine, but like maybe it's not fine in this sort of environment. But I'm like, like the book would say to do this, but I really don't want to. He went 2.5x. It was a bigger open. I'm all in. Like, I'm over it. I don't know. Get called by queens. I beat him. I win. I scam the guy. But I'm like, this felt awful. Like, this feels really bad. And like for chips, like it's kind of fine. But with
how many
ICM,
bigs did you have, Lennon?
30.
Okay.
But like in theory, under the gun 7 is too tight. Yeah. Like you don't want to do this versus gun 7. You do it versus like hijack and cutoff and button because they're wider. But like if you open the under the gun 7 for whatever, I'm like, okay, like Matt opened a cutoff range, like under the gun 7 doesn't apply.
Yeah, I think what makes this stylistic approach that kind of Jesse's alluding to, where in theory or in general, I guess, when we look at these things in the lab, you're giving up marginal amounts of EV, but like there are other soft pockets, if you will, throughout the game tree where you can recoup a lot of that EV or potentially force your opponent to sacrifice large chunks because they're kind of flying blind. And I think that's kind of what you're speaking to. What makes this very apparent to me is the stand-up game where there are no rules, right? Like nobody has any real foresight of what the ranges should look like. And the best thing that we understand is everybody needs to be a lot looser. So it's kind of like this convergence on 100 instead of 0.
Depends who you ask, right? Because some people think like, oh, it's actually you should play tighter and there's only pressure later.
Maybe, but either way, the point is that like in normal poker, you're converging on 0, right? Like when if you made a table 18 handed, under the gun 18 would be playing like aces, right? So like you're converging closer and closer and closer to 0. The tighter the range actually is. In stand-up, it's the opposite.
Where there's a penalty.
You're trying to get as close to playing 100% of hands as possible, so long as the penalty is in existence.
It's good for you. You like that.
Right, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that these two different environments test the extremes of what is viable in this game. And in nature, as we play, it's just a spectrum in between. Everybody's like picking their own lane, and that's where the stylistic concept comes from. People are too loose, people are too tight, people over bluff, people under bluff, people overcall, people undercall. Like all of these things happen within the framework of the math. And sure, in a perfect world, there's a way to just like have complete knowledge and see how all this moves and then create a perfect counter strategy. But in a game of imperfect information played by humans, that'll never be the case.
Well,
and I think that's what's like so beautiful about actually getting to go out there and battle every single day.
That's kind of the issue, and to some extent with MDA in online tournaments, right? Because now people try to create custom strategies versus certain people. And now you're like, oh, okay, this guy like overfolds the turn X%. Now we're just going to barrel, and then when he calls, we're just going to give up.
I mean, I think weaponizing data is a totally different conversation.
You think so?
Yeah, because like none of this can happen live.
By the way, we didn't even get into like live tells and stuff, but
Right.
like in Ian's hand that he butchered,
Yeah.
Which he didn't.
yeah, like for all we know, he could have looked at the next three players at the table, and like one guy had already looked at his cards and got on his phone.
Yeah.
And another guy like tried to throw them in the muck, and that was like the button. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many elements to poker.
Variables, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and man, it's like it's just so crazy to be that harsh on a person when you just have no idea what's
I want to give like a little bit of leeway to Matt because it just seems like he's probably it's I think it's just part of the process, right? Like especially
it seems like he's frustrated because he's running bad, right? Like I would imagine that's where that comes from most of the time.
And yeah, I started to tell the story of like I was speaking to Katie about this on Monday with regards to like beginners when they come in, but I think like what I was trying to communicate to her, because I think women see it very differently, is like for men, we're competitive from day one. And in a lot of these situations where either we lack knowledge or we're a bit emotional for whatever reason, like we've been running bad, or maybe we are part of like or we're trapped in the Dunning-Krueger or whatever, we regress to like our 13-year-old self where we start to just measure the world in some sort of hierarchy, right? So I did this constantly when I was a kid. Constantly, I would look around at my peers and I would say, I'm the best baseball player out of this group. I'm the third best basketball player. I'm the fourth best wide receiver out of this group. Like, I have better hands than this guy. He's faster than me. I'm taller than him. I'm stronger than him. He's better looking than me. Like, that was just how we viewed the world. It was a ranking system at all times, and everything was a value judgment on yourself, because
that's kind of all you had.
Yeah, it's like if you can measure yourself up against the competition and you see where you fit, then you understand how you can like proceed through the natural order of things, right? It's like, okay, well, I think I'm a solid Pittsburgh 7 here. So, you know, I can either date down a couple of grades and date the hottest girl in 9th grade when I'm in 11th, or I can go for a mid girl in my own grade. You know what I mean? Like that's the way a 14, 15, 16-year-old boy thinks, because everything is just, it's transactional in some sense, where it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to prove my worth to girls because I'm at that age, and my worth is demonstrated through athletics, physical prowess, achievements, competition. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like the meme where like you're in 5th grade, like the fastest guy got all the girls.
Yeah, precisely.
That's all they had to go off of.
Of course, they win freeze tag every day.
Yeah.
So it's like
that was my problem. I've never been very fast at anything.
Very unlucky.
It goes inverse when you get older. The slower you are, the better.
Yeah, you know, I'm crushing it over here with 6 words a minute.
And I think like as you get older and you find yourself in other competitive fields, you can regress to that. Like certain things can trigger that regression. And it just seems like this was a moment of that, right? Where it's just like, oh man, I thought this guy was better than me, but then I saw a mistake, which clearly indicates that I am higher than him on the hierarchy, and I really need to let people know, right? Because my achievements may not put me there, or maybe people aren't as aware of me as they are of him because he's player of the year. But like, let me remind you guys, I'm out here doing the work, and I know that that's not a jam.
Right. That's very valid. That makes a lot of sense.
There's a lot of that in
I feel that.
I've like read some
Damn.
short works on.
No, I'm having a.
Landon's having a moment.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt your
Let
epiphany.
Let
Landon
Landon go
Landon.
through his whole process. Let him just. Let
I
it sink in.
realize it now, much more now. Like looking back at it, where like I just wanted to be so part of the community, and like I didn't have like achievements or results, but I'm like I know like I'm gonna have results. Like I know this is gonna matter, and like this means so much to me, and like I want you guys to know. But like nobody gives a shit.
Right.
Nobody cares.
No,
And, like,
well, more
that's
importantly,
fine.
more importantly, there are no pundits in this space, right? Like outside of, I guess, like to a small degree, this podcast does it, but like we don't have Sports Center, we don't have like First Take. Nobody's sitting here like going through the tail of the tape of Landon Tice versus Nick Schulman and like trying to figure out who ranks where.
Can we start doing that instead of the hand history at the end? Can
I
we
like
just break
that.
down like a couple or before the hand history or something? That would be fun.
Honestly, to some degree, that is what I want to do today with regard to the 50K.
Damn.
Because not like we've been doing, but especially since you were in the booth and you do know these games rather well, I do think it's a conversation to kind of have, because I don't think that there's another event on the schedule, even outside of the World Series, that pits the old school versus the new school so closely as this PPC does. And obviously there's like a bit of a blend where you get guys like Osmus, where I'm not entirely sure which camp he falls into. I lean a little more old school, right? Age-wise and everything else, but he grew up online too, so it kind of maybe hybrid-ish.
He's
right?
Osmus is timeless and
Yeah.
limitless and very handsome.
Yeah, he's just out here doing
got a
it.
great
He's
family.
like he's got a great family. He's like the grinder version of you know?
Shout out to Brewer Chip leading.
Right. So that's where we get, right? Like,
And then there's David Benjamin.
exactly. You look at the top 5 and it's bookend by nude school, right?
On your bike, David Benjamin.
So it's bookend by new school. Yal Vera is 5th in chips. Chris Brewer is chip leading. I would qualify both these guys as new school. Like they're online guys. They came up. I'm certain that they're very studied and all of this stuff. And then you look at the core middle, and it's like Benjamin, bro. We haven't seen this guy fucking out here doing stuff since World Poker Tour popped off in the early 2010s. Ivy obviously just like back doing his thing. Graded all the games.
It's the bucket hat.
Bryce Yockey, chip on his shoulder, did not go for enough dollars in the fantasy. He's out here doing it. And
Also, he has something to prove in the 50K in particular. Cause
after the RA beat.
Yeah, that was
That's the
some
only,
really
that's the only
special
reason
stuff.
I know Yaki is just like seeing that bad beat so many times.
Yeah.
What was it like? He just went perfect for a wheel or something?
Yeah.
You have a wheel?
I want to say something nice about Yockey. I love Bryce Yockey. The first time I met him, he was just like, we played open face Chinese in Australia for $1.
Wow.
And he just taught us how to play the whole time. This is like top 5 open face players on the planet.
Yeah.
And he just loved the game so much. He's like, yeah, let's just like have lunch and I'll teach you guys how to play and we'll just play for $1 so it doesn't like mean anything. And like that's just kind of like every time I've interacted with Bryce, I just get the sense like that's who he is.
Yeah, and I actually think that's like a fair representation of the mixed community in general.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm not a part of it, but like I guess I see it enough.
No, they want you to learn and to like it is a more of a sharing
They're
community for sure.
They want to grow a dying game.
Yeah, they're a lot better at cultivating new blood than we are at No Limit. Like we're so like, oh, you like poker, do you? Well, I got a game for you, young man.
Until you jam 10 bigs with King Jack suited, and then we're just going to flame you on the internet.
Right. Well, to be fair, I think that if it was a recreational that did that, Matt wouldn't have said anything.
Probably not.
Being that it was one of his peers, I think
It's
he
just
kind
a part of the achievement, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, maybe who knows? Maybe the Vegas Pig took over his account for 5 minutes, and there's not much we can do about that.
No.
But yeah, so like rounding out this list, we see Ms. Rocky coming in. He's vying for his 4th. I don't think that's been done before.
Sick.
So he has 3. Does Rast also have 3?
I think Rast has 3.
I think so too. And then D-Neg's also still in the mix. So it's almost a 50-50 split with like new school, old school guys. And I wonder, like, when you look at a championship event like this, where it's a mix of big bet games, it's a mix of limit games, like, who holds the edge here? And why is it the old school?
I think it's just like, well, I mean, Chris was saying that he played the PPC the first time because the big bet games are just worth so much.
Yeah.
So like being very solid at those big bet games seems like it's more important.
Is it still true? It's a 10-game event. Is that correct?
9 game.
I was gonna guess 9.
So
Yeah.
and it's 5 limit, 4 big bet.
It's 3 big bet, I believe. No limit,
PLO,
and deuce of 7. No limit.
Oh, okay.
Draw.
Okay.
And then everything else is limit. There's 3 stud games. There's limit hold'em. Shout out to limit hold'em. There's 08, limit 08, and triple draw, which is limit. So there's 6 limit games.
Okay. Would everybody in the field eliminate limit hold'em if given the opportunity?
Limit hold'em?
Yeah.
I hope not.
What's he gonna commentate on?
Everything that we've talked about that's bad in tournament, no limit tournament poker does not exist in the limit hold'em world.
That's fair.
By the way, the limit hold'em world is a way to describe the 24 people at the Bellagio who still keep that game alive. So
Yeah.
I prefer to call it the limit hold'em community.
You're one of them. You're one of the survivors.
Yeah.
You win Jesse and limit hold'em.
He's in there.
I think limit hold'em, as far as mixed games go, I actually think like limit hold'em and Raz are just like hated on, but they're great games.
I think Raz is hated because it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is
Like
frustrating.
the way you lose is so aggravating. It's literally just like, it's very similar to No Limit in the sense that like your strongest hands just get counterfeit. You know, like you make 2 pair versus an overpair, and you know you got this guy fucked finally, and then the board pairs and you just get counterfeit. Like that's Raz, right? It's like, okay, I'm on my way to a Pat 7 here. This is going to be fucking amazing. And then it goes pair.
Well, Raz is all about expectations. If you go in knowing like your equity is never going to be that much further ahead of your opponents, unless they're playing really bad and just like, calling down on boards they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Like your equity is never going to be that good. It's similar to I saw a tweet years ago where somebody was like, I just busted like my 8th tournament without cashing in a row. Like, how do you guys do this if I play 3 cash sessions and all 3, tilted?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, well, we go in with the mindset that we're not going to win money most of the time, Yeah, like your expectations, people have bad expectations in Raz generally, I think. But I do think it's kind of a beautiful game because it's one of those games that like you figure it out and then it seems really simple and then there's all these little nuances to it. So it's kind of a cool game.
Yeah, I very vividly remember this must have been like 2004, maybe even 2003. Might have been Moneymaker year. I don't remember, but I very much remember this is when every Tuesday they would do a World Series final table, and they did one of the Raz final tables.
Oh yeah,
Howard Lederer was
and they all they did was talk about how much they hated Raz and everyone.
Yeah, and I swear I only remember a couple of hands, but every one of them was like Howard Lederer getting counterfeit, just like going pair,
and nobody in the hands. The guy who wins the pot's unhappy. The guy who loses the pot's unhappy.
Yeah.
Shout out to TJ Cloutier who was at that final table.
Yes, that's accurate.
What a final table that was.
What nostalgia. So whenever it comes down to like these mixes, it does sound like the big bet games play a relatively big role. Because like some of these guys seem like, I don't want to say, I mean, I don't want to go so far as to say specialists. It looks like there's a healthy mix of big bet players in the top remaining 12. Like a guy like Mizraki, he plays a fair amount of No Limit. Daniel obviously plays a fair amount of No Limit. Brewer plays a ton. Ivy is going to be no slouch. Osmus, no slouch. But like a guy like Bryce, he's not really playing much in the way of big bet games, I wouldn't imagine.
Actually, Bryce has 2 PLO bracelets, and he won the 5K PLO this year.
Okay. So he's playing a little bit more,
Yeah.
at least on the 4-card side.
Well, I will say this. Having watched a good amount of these, it does feel a little bit like the new school kind of guys would say the big bet games play a little bit bigger because they play bigger in them. Whereas like I watched a table that was, Negranu, Helmuth, Benjamin was in there, I think, for a minute. No, he was in there last night. Whatever. The old school players in PLO, which feels like it should be the biggest game, right?
Right.
It's a big bet game that, there's
Money
just
goes
a ton
in.
of variance that.
And there's a big ante.
Yeah. Like if you just, for instance, if you go online, you look at rakes between PLO and No Limit, like PLO rake that's paid or rake back is so much higher because you just see flops. Whereas in No Limit, you fold pre-flop. they pot control. The old school guys pot control a lot in that game. And
Right.
they won't push certain edges, which is probably fine, like especially as you get deep into tournaments, great. But the new school guys who have, they put a lot of time into PLO, they've studied a lot. They understand like where you're trying to apply pressure in different spots. Like they play bigger, I think.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see those two
Or they're
styles
trying
clash a
to
little
at
bit.
least, right? Like they're trying to press the pot button, and they know that, and it's like probably even smarter when they know that people are trying not to play that big in these games because they'd rather play the smaller games or games they're more comfortable in. Like you might have more edge just like clicking the pot button more.
It's especially interesting too because I think that they're going to have really good oversight on how sizings should function in these spots. So what I mean by that is people who tend to pot control tend to have a binary decision between bet or check. And then the times that they do choose bet, they kind of have like a defaulted size, right? So if it's a spot where they just check often, they're probably just potting, right? And if it's a spot where they're not checking that often, generally in the past, it was probably just like half pot. Where now maybe they've gotten a little bit more nuanced. They're using a little more of the quarter size and stuff like that. But somebody like Brewer, it doesn't come down to like, am I betting or am I checking here, right? It's am I betting? And if I'm betting, how am I splitting these sizes in a way that allows me to maximize my equity realization, to maximize my fold equity, to maximize my chip EV or my ICM scenario? You know what I mean? Like he's calculating so many other variables that go so far past the raw equity of his hand. Where I think for like a lot of the old school guys, as you were kind of mentioning, the driving force behind the pot control is that they feel they have so much of an edge in the limit games. And on top of that, in the big bet games, it's very difficult if you're not constantly slaving over these sort of formats to really be able to get beyond the actual raw equity of your hand and figure out what the fuck it is that you want to accomplish. Yeah. So it is kind of interesting to me, especially seeing like Brewer atop the chip lead here.
Absolutely. I turned it off last night, maybe like 11 or something, and Brewer had a couple of million, so I was pretty shocked to see they had 5 million, but that's pretty cool and wild.
I would guess they probably played a big bet game near the end.
You'd think so, but every time I saw people, like Osmus went from like 1.5 to 3, and I went back, I was like, oh, he must have doubled because it was in like an hour, and then you look and it's like, oh no, he just won like 4 limit pots, and those.
He won a big stud pot, or stud 8 pot versus Daniel. I happened to see that clip where I can't remember what his up cards were, but I think he was showing like 3 diamonds and maybe 1 or 2 low cards. Did not like, he wasn't really presenting much of a hand, but he had like a really strong rolled up hand and ended up like scooping Daniel in what was a pretty big pot where Daniel, like, I think he started with he either started with aces and 3s and didn't improve, or he started with aces and 3 to a low and didn't improve. But in any regard, like he just kind of had a trap hand in a spot where Jeremy was just like getting the max.
By the way, it warms my heart to talk about this and to like hear you talking about hands that you watch. Like I just think 50K is such a special tournament.
Yeah, so same. Cool. We were talking about this yesterday with like this to me is like the last area where we still get to see the two worlds collide.
Yeah.
Right? Like so many of the, like we're never going to see Benjamin on another fucking televised event outside of this.
You're not going to see Benjamin in a 100K no limit high roller.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Even if he's a great poker player.
They're also streaming. They're streaming this now, like not just from the final table, where it used to only be FT, right?
Or did they that's a good question. I'm not sure. I feel like they did multi-day coverage of this.
Well, I mean, the ESPN days it was just FT, but that's obviously
right.
different. Yeah. I don't actually know.
Did they do like final 2 tables and stuff for the PPC last year?
Man, I feel like they did.
They did it like every day, and that's why I started studying the mixed games, because I watched that every day, and I was like, this is the best. I want to learn these games so bad.
Yeah, and I will say kudos to PokerGo twofold. Number one, for realizing like it's worth having multi-day coverage for some of these prestigious events. I know they did it for the 250K. They did it for the PPC for 5 days. And most importantly, they put it on YouTube. So I think like it's always a dicey ask for people to go behind a paywall for something that maybe they're not that interested in, but if it's on, they'll watch. That's kind of how I feel about this.
Yeah.
And it's always like what I guess like kind of profess to people about baseball is like, it's shitty if you're in a market where there isn't just a local game, because oftentimes like the people who fall into gradually really enjoying watching baseball just kind of happen along it as they're flipping through channels, and it's like, oh, all right, the Pirates are on. I'll tune in for an inning, and then something exciting happens. It's like, oh, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Can I expect this more often?
Yeah. If Poker Go could sell ads and have like a channel on cable somehow,
right,
and people just wandered across the 50K, I think it would be really cool. I'd love to see the results of that, but
yeah,
unfortunately it doesn't seem like that's the business model that works because they haven't pursued that. But
I mean, poker's also not the most visibly pleasing game. It's pretty slow. You don't get a lot of information.
Well, if you stick Blez at every feature table,
that's
it
fair.
might work out.
True.
That is fair.
Did you guys watch that, by the way?
Yeah,
it was
I just saw the highlights, but yeah.
Oh my
Man,
god.
So good,
It is
man.
kind of sad how slow poker is. Poker
Yeah.
is so cool. It would be so much cooler to watch if like it was just like fast, like
So
ADHD.
much of what's cool about it though is like what's going on in our brains.
Yeah, but nobody
You know what
wants
I mean?
to like sit there and watch someone think.
Correct.
They want
yeah,
to see things happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
Especially nowadays.
I always-
Zoomers, we don't have the attention span, man.
of course not. I always relate it back to baseball because it's what I know best, but it's also, I see so many parallels. Like, for somebody who deeply appreciates the game of baseball, the nuance is endless. You can dig into a single pitch.
Especially as a pitcher. you know?
Right. You can dig into like literally a single pitch and just like run through the mindset of like what the fuck went through your head choosing that location. Did you miss? Why fastball over off speed in this particular spot? What's the situation with the runners, the run, all this stuff. It's a beautiful game to unfold. But what it has going for it that poker doesn't is on the surface, it's also just like very easy to follow. It's slow, and that's the problem.
Person
That's where
here,
you lose people.
person there.
Yeah. Everybody's played wiffle ball. Everybody knows you get up, you swing at a ball, it goes somewhere, you run to bases, yada. Nothing very complex about it on the surface. Now, it's boring, and that's unfortunate. It's not the NFL.
You have to learn how to play poker.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Exactly. To watch poker, you actually have to learn poker.
You think
And that's
poker
kinda
would be cooler
problematic.
if people learned poker at like 5 or 6?
It should be taught in school.
I truly think chess and poker are two mind sports that would be very beneficial to kids,
Yeah.
just from a logic standpoint. I
You
think,
don't mean the gambling? No, I'm joking. Yeah, gamble to the ground.
look, gambling is a part of life.
I was gonna say, fucking DraftKings has ads everywhere.
It's like, all right, guys, you got 10 gummy bears.
Truthfully, though, like a lot of schools do this with stock markets, where they'll have you like go through mock stocks. That's
I did
just
this in
gambling.
my FBLA in high school.
Yeah, and to some degree,
It's
that's
like a
just
stock
gambling.
club or some shit.
Right. I think the issue is not the. I think the issue is like the taboo around the
phrasing
word
and
gambling. Right. Like it's just risk management. Right. If you teach people the risk reward profiles of the gambles that they're taking, you would hope that they would then be able to logically deduce what's bad. Like I'm a fucking degenerate on the table. I go for the thinnest edges and ones that don't even exist, to be quite frank.
Source.
Like,
It came to you in a dream.
Right, I'll like I'm all in. Whatever, like call me if you want to call me. Like I'll play chicken with you for $100,000.
Did you improve on the 10 or not? Because I'm all in.
Right, and like, also I'll flip at the end of sessions because it's zero EV. Like it's just a fun sweat type of thing, right? But no part of me ever once. I could be buried. I mean, I've had my biggest loss in Bobby's room this summer for like 230,000 or whatever. There was no part of me that wanted to take 20K to the blackjack pit.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Because I understand, like, I'm too proud. I don't want to ever put myself in the spot to be the mark.
You just know that you're losing for sure.
100%.
Like, there's no edge here.
Right. It's just like simple math.
You want the game to keep going, but you won't go to a different game.
Right. Like, I could be losing in the poker game too, but I'm not privy to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, like every aspect of life is a gamble too. It's funny when people say that they don't gamble, but then they start their own business.
Right.
Or like if you don't start your own business, you're also working for a company that you're gambling won't go out of business or won't just randomly fire you.
This is what Nick Howard was talking about with detox and like thinking about poker through risk management of like, you have no idea if your like real life job is a greater than 5% chance like that you still stay.
That's why I think like these games are such great sandboxes for kids to reframe the lens through which they see the world. Like for better or for worse, like I see the world in numbers in a lot of ways. And yeah, that takes some of the romanticism out of things, but it's nice to be able to navigate your life with so much unpredictability, but have like some frame of reference for the likelihood of a bad event happening.
Like, oh, this decision leads to this outcome, which could be good or bad. Like, do I want to risk doing that?
Yeah, something that changed my outlook a lot on things was shortly after college. I want to say I was out here. I'm pretty sure I was out here because I think this was a conversation I had with Dan O'Brien. But it was either my car broke down or my sister's car, and it was just an annoyance, right? It was like one of those things where something big enough happened where it was going to be out of commission, like transmission or an engine failure, something along those lines, right? Whatever it was.
Real hassle.
Yeah, and either I or my sister was like lamenting over it, just like I feel like it was my sister, and I was bitching about it to Dan. And she was just like, how does this always happen to me? I'm the unluckiest person in the world. Like, my car is broken down. Like, I can't believe this happened, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, kind of explaining the situation to Dan. And I'm just like, I don't understand why, like, she's so miffed about it. Like, that's life. That kind of shit happens. And he was just like, well, yeah, like, it's a car. It will have a yearly maintenance cost to it. Fixed. Right now, that cost will be variable in nature year over year, but on average, you should expect to spend X amount of dollars if you own a car. I was like, man, that's a great way of reframing it, because now the only annoying part about the engine blowing or the tire popping or whatever is that it happened today. Like, today
this was
the day.
going to happen. You're dealing with it now.
Yeah, the variance is affecting me in this very moment, but this was inevitable. Right? Like, it's always inevitable. And you can think the same way about health. You can think the same way about your teeth, about pretty much anything that people experience commonly throughout their life. Death, right? Like, all of these things are coming for us at some point. And it's just about figuring out what the aggregate looks like so you can plan for it year over year. It's like, okay, well, I own a car. My car is worth X amount, and I should expect to pay 10% maintenance every single year.
Or you just never use it.
Yeah, or just a brick in your fucking driveway, like Landon's.
This is funny for me because I take it the exact opposite way. Like, if I have a car issue and I'm late for something, I'm like, well, like, instead of, oh, I'm unlucky, I'm often like, well, clearly I didn't take good enough care of the car.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like I take the blame. And generally I like that, but it's like I should go the other way with it and kind of respect the fact that there's some variance to life.
It's probably somewhere in the middle, right? Like, you don't do certain things for the car. You're like, oh, this thing just happened, and it could have been avoided maybe if I was like more responsible in this way.
Well, avoided isn't the right word. It can be prolonged.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
not avoidable.
If you take good care of your body, you won't get cancer till you're 105, but you're going to get cancer. Like,
right.
Like, that's the nature of the disease, is that, if you live long enough, you'll get it.
Or people get smart enough to stop that shit.
Hopefully.
It seems like it's happening.
Hopefully.
There's like a way that, like, I saw like something, I don't know how true it is, classic internet, where it's like scientists like found ways to like reverse aging in like mice or some shit. And it was like, oh, we can wait a few years, see if that happens to people.
I thought that you were talking about Haktua. And I was like, what? You were talking about these mice?
Yeah.
Man, Guapo was early investor on Haktua.
Were you really? Yo, I'm so miffed that I didn't look up whether there was a Haktua coin or not. It's up like 1,000%.
No, I'm kidding. I mean the actual meme.
There's a meme coin on Haktua. It's up like 3,000%.
Of course it is. I would buy. I
don't know
love
what
it.
I was sleeping on that I didn't buy that coin. That's
He sent us the meme like day one. He's like, you have to see this. And obviously I thought it was funny, but I didn't give it a second thought. And then I just woke up like 4 days later and I could not open social media without some version of Haktua just like on my timeline. I was like, this is the greatest meme to ever fucking hit the
funny
internet.
thing about it is he was probably late too because it was on TikTok first.
That's true.
You know, because like we see it from Instagram.
Right,
It's like it's 2 weeks late.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm not on TikTok. I didn't see it until Guapo probably saw it. But those guys, the TikTokers, and it keeps happening. You know,
now, right?
I'm always like, like how is there always like new memes? Like how is there always something like this? Yeah, like the sketch, like. But it keeps happening, like over and over again. Something happens because someone records some nonsense on the internet.
Yeah,
and
this is Gen Z's version of 2 Girls, 1 Cup.
Sure.
Wow, that's a much lighter,
ours is a little more hardcore
generation. Yeah.
Well,
womp womp.
Did you guys see the AMAC tweet, by the way?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that one.
remind me. I can't remember. I don't want to paraphrase it because I don't
We
remember.
can't
it well.
pull it up, can we?
What are we looking for?
Thing. It's Amit Majaka's Amex.
Let's find it.
Is it his Twitter?
Yeah.
What's AMAC got for us?
He basically said,
Hell of a pickleball player, by the way.
Is he, I haven't played with him in like 3
5-0.
years, and I heard he got so good.
He's unbelievable.
He could compete at the pro level. I don't think he could win, but he could compete, which is saying a lot. Like, it's fucking hard to score points at the pro level.
His partner, basically like his wife, but I don't think
yeah.
she's sponsored now too.
Yeah, I believe it. She's incredibly good too.
Yeah, I didn't know
the
how
barrier of entry is actually like lower for women to get to the pro level too.
Which tweet are we looking for?
Let's go into that conversation.
Sure. I think one of his most recent ones. It was about like.
Don't be an asshole.
Yeah, that one.
Wait, no, it was about the Haktua girl. It was like
Oh, then I didn't see. I saw the don't be an asshole one.
It was basically like we all have a period in our career where we're running hot and we feel like we're God in poker. He was like, it's important to keep in mind that no matter what you do in this poker world, you will never be as famous as the Haktua girl. I was like, that's a really good way to humble yourself. Like, this girl said 8 words in a 13-second video, and she has you pipped for the rest of your life.
Just you pipped. Yeah, you're fucked.
I mean,
not even pipped. She's like
you're dead.
9 notches ahead of you.
Yeah, and like poker's so small, industry's so small. Just what does it even all? What does
I
it
mean,
all
to
matter?
be fair, she absolutely crushed it. Yo, spit on that thing.
Yeah, and her laugh is just so good. It's such a lovable laugh at the end.
I think the only downside to it is that as far as monetizing off of it, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. Like, for instance, you remember the ocean spray guy on his skateboard?
Yeah.
Like, that was easy to monetize. This, I think, is going to be a little bit tougher.
She's got hats. Do you see her hats?
Yeah, I did see that. She
saw that Rogan clip
with fathead clothing.
Oh, speaking of viral memes, did you guys? I'm sure you saw the Edmonton Oiler girl that flashed her boobs at the.
Is this a recent one?
This is like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I feel like there's a few
Go
clips
Panthers.
throughout the years in hockey going around like that.
This girl, unbelievable. She's super hot, right? So she like flashed her boobs. I think this was in the Eastern Conference the Western.
Right.
No, I think it was in the Western Conference Finals when they came back and beat Dallas.
Oh sure.
So she went viral after they'd beaten Dallas. Like, this was the good luck that did it. Perfect. And
the 2 good lucks.
Right. And as it went into the Stanley Cup Finals and they went down 3-0 to the Panthers, she started to get a ton of attention all over again. I just happened to see on the timeline, I think 2 days ago when they were playing Game 7, that she was like in her shower drinking a Molson, talking about her prediction for Game 7, and then ends it with, head over to my Playboy page and see more. I'm like, God damn, man, they're so fast. Like, they strike when the iron's hot.
Fans?
I mean, they're all derivatives of OnlyFans now, but they're different platforms. So whatever she's on is like
good for her.
Playboy Pics or something like that. I don't know.
By the way, how wild is it that until a few years ago, college athletes couldn't monetize?
Yeah.
But you can, show your boobs at the game and monetize in 30 seconds.
Man, it's kind of interesting when you put it that way. Like, the internet is like just one giant fucking marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
It's a marketplace of ideas, of sex, of competition, product, and it's all for sale. Yeah, mostly sex. But it's all for sale.
Yeah.
Everything is for sale. The ideas are for sale. The resources are for sale. The boobs are for sale. Like, you want it, you can buy it. And it's just it's just one giant fucking funnel.
It's a wild place because it's like everyone's kind of inner, I don't want to say inner desires, but kind of like inner hidden selves, like,
It's like the Willy Wonka chocolate factory, and anybody who has a job has a golden ticket.
Yeah.
You just, what do you want, kid? You want a gobstopper? Go ahead, have one.
You want to float up to the ceiling?
Yeah.
We got that.
Yeah, we got that. We can make it all. Man, imagine what the dark web looks like. Jesus Christ.
I can tell you. That shit's crazy. I can tell you something right now. Dark web is sick. The first time I saw it, I was like, what the fuck is this? I started scrolling. I'm like, this is one of the most absurd things I've ever seen. You don't want to see it.
I don't want in.
You're just like, your whole world will be shattered.
I
It's
need to retain my innocence.
I heard something about the price of Hitmen on there, and that was terrifying.
It's so low.
5,000.
So low.
That's terrifying.
There's so many things on there that you can be like, what the fuck?
Hey,
Really?
to all the hitmen out there, let me give you a little fucking business advice. You have a very unique set of skills. Okay? Not just everyone's out here snuffing people. Charge a little for your fucking, like, a human life is worth a lot. If you're not getting 100,000, you're not doing it right, my friend. I'm really just trying to negotiate up so that, you know, the hits stop coming.
Yeah.
Like 5,000 is too cheap. I feel endangered.
Yeah, price
you
out the
should.
people who aren't like completely deranged but can make $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't want somebody starting an OnlyFans in order to fund my death.
There's a great joke back in the day from Daniel Tosh where he said, I'm sorry about the price of tickets for the show. He's like, but I just need you to know I can't afford to stand on a stage where people can walk in for $20. He's like, my jokes are too provocative. He's like, a guy could just find $20 and be like, I'm going to commit a murder today.
That's actually very fair, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What do you got up for the rest of the week? Going back to Chicago again? Fourth trip? Fifth trip?
No more Chicago.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Good. We got you for the rest of the summer.
We'll see. You know, maybe
Just a quick
it's a good
overnight
city.
trip, maybe. Yeah.
We'll see.
Are you playing anything?
I'm gonna go in and play something today.
Okay.
I might.
You picked a very dead week.
Win
It's
3,500.
senior week and ladies week. There isn't a lot of open events.
You're going to the win.
So
I might be at the win.
You'll be at the win.
Probably make it down to the win, or you'll see me at the Bellagio cash games. You know,
We got a seat for you, buddy.
you got a seat for me.
I think pretty confidently I can get you into the second game.
All right.
I'll let you know.
I was talking about the 81.
I know what you were talking about. I'm trying to drag you out of the abyss.
I'm in.
I just want to start telling hand histories with Jesse as being the villain instead of Oaken.
No, I really enjoy your Oaken
I
stories.
think we all do. We all love Oaken's
Oh,
presence
man.
too much. Even
Well,
though we've never seen him.
I have it
on
in
the
the
pod.
muck. I have it in the muck of myself for tomorrow, so we'll get to that one. Then we may be joined by Matt Hunt. It depends if he bags the win or not. So let's hope that he puts some chippies in the bag today, alongside with Landon. We'd like to have him put some chippies in the bag as
I
well.
would also like that too.
Wait, is tomorrow day 2 of the win?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I apologize. We'll have those two if they don't bag, but I'm rooting for them both to bag. So we'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. As always, you'll have me in the muck. Hopefully the tortoise isn't back and somehow spun 7.5 blinds into infinite.
He's out.
Okay, he's out. He'll be back here tomorrow.
You are overly invested by a lot that I need to bag.
I'm never gonna financially recover from this. God damn it, man! Just go win something. Like, here's the thing. I'm gonna end on this little bit of a rant, but like, Becker is at this phase now where he's just like mitigating losses. Like, he's just trying to manage, right? It's like, oh, I'm gonna go play a down bad 1K and like try to have a 15K score to keep the gap like 50,000. And I'm not really gonna play these 5Ks and 10Ks, and maybe I'll fire one into the 3,500 at the win, but that's it. Because like Landon's just over here rifling it off, and he's gonna lose 100,000 this summer, and I'm gonna win the bet. Go fucking bury him, man. Win a goddamn tournament for 250K. Get this thing out of reach and make him start fucking gambling.
We're long ballers.
I'll tell you right now, you put up a 200K score and he will not be in any more win dailies for the rest of the summer.
He will not be
I
happy.
can assure you that.
He will not be happy.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Don't forget to smash that like button. We'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. We'll see who's in studio. We'll talk to you guys then.
Later, squad.
Peace.